Look who's here, House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan. Chairman, it's always great to see you again.
You too.
So what is happening now? Congressman Thomas Massie reported claims he has enough Republicans to block it in the House. I mean, with full attendance, you can't have more than four GOP defections are going to sink the bill. What's happening right now?
I think, there are meetings going on, there are talks going on, just like Congressman Johnson mentioned. I think my colleagues are right. I think we get there. I think we get there because it is a good bill. And I always tell everyone, it's a good bill because Democrats hate it. The reason they hate it is because it doesn't empower government. It actually empowers families. It empowers Americans, lets them keep more of their money, gives them school choice, makes sure our border stays secure, and says to able-bodied people in our welfare system who are getting your money and your viewers' money, guess what? You're going to have to work now. So it's just good common sense Republican basic principles that we have as a party that I think in the end that carries the day and this thing gets passed. So it'll take a while. It always does in this process, but I think we're going to get there.
What are the big sticking points now?
Well, I think obviously some of our members didn't like some of the changes that the Senate made, whether it was with the so-called Inflation Reduction Acts, which did all this stuff on the green energy stuff, the subsidies there. There was concerns about that. So that's the key. And I think just the overall that we maybe didn't cut enough spending, some members think. I agree we should cut more. But we got a small majority in both the House and Senate, and you got to kind of cobble together the votes. And so you moderates don't always want to cut as much as we conservatives do, and it's just how it works. So again, I think with that tight of a small of a majority, this is probably as good as it's going to get. And I've said to my colleagues, and I respect them all, I've said, look, it was 50-50 in the Senate. The vice president had to come break the tie. And the two of the three votes on the Republican side against it were Senator Tillis, Senator Collins, not exactly conservatives. Do you think it can get much more conservative when that's the lay of the land? I think it's difficult. So let's look at what a good bill this is, how it, I think, is going to help economic growth by letting people and businesses keep more of their money, invest that money, spend that money. I think it, on balance, is a pretty darn good piece of legislation that we should be supporting. So
we've got a third procedural vote coming up. Do you think it'll get through that?
Well, that's the big test. I think the rules actually may be a bigger test than the final passage. So I hope it does. That's what the talks are about. The other thing I think is important, and you had this at the top of the show, where we talked about the president's approval ratings amongst Republicans. Momentum is an important thing. It's important in sports, and it's certainly important in politics. The president's got record approval ratings. He's off this amazing, successful exercise in Iran. The NATO countries are ending up more of their money to help pay for NATO. We got a border that's secure. The stock market is up, as you just pointed out. Things are moving in the right direction, and now we're going to stop a bill that cuts taxes for the families we get to represent. I just fail to see how that makes sense. So in the end, I think we get there because it's just good common sense and it's consistent with what we told the voters we were going to do. And I always say we make this job too complicated. What did we tell the voters we're going to do? If you get elected, go do that. President Trump does it better than anyone. And that's what we got to focus on.
Yeah, this would be a $4.6 trillion tax hike. I know one number's out there, $1.6 trillion, but all in, it's $4.6 trillion tax hike on the U.S. economy. Democrats are trying to make hay, saying, this is going to throw 16 million people off of Medicaid, but about half of that is able-bodied workers who just have to volunteer for 20 hours a week. That's 7.8 million. And then I think 1.3 million people are on Medicaid, and plus people could still get Obamacare. Can you break that down for the viewer on why that 16 million number, it appears to be inflated?
Well, yeah, requiring people to work who are getting a benefit from the taxpayers when they're able-bodied, that is not kicking anyone off. That is called common sense. You work every day. I have to work. The families I get the privilege of representing, the 800,000 people in the 4th District of Ohio, they got to go to work. Why can't people who are on Medicaid, for goodness sake, to think of the 35-year-old able-bodied male and he's getting a benefit and not having to do a work requirement or any type of volunteer activity? You got to be kidding me. That's just crazy. So anyone with common sense understands that should happen. But Democrats say, oh, no, that's kicking people off. It's just flat out not true.
Okay, Chairman Jordan, we'll be following the vote. It's always so wonderful to see you again.